First bill hearing of the session, so it's an exciting day. Happy to see folks sitting in the gallery. So as I think most people know, we haven't had a committee assistant for about 3 days or even office assistant, but Terry has done a fabulous job. Thank you so much for helping us out with everything. So if there's a few little glitches, that would be the reason why. We do have some paper testimony. I know some people on the committee ask for paper. Terry did graciously make us copies, and then we probably have even a few extra copies for those. But I think I'll pass these around. If you want one of these copies, please take one and then pass it on. Okay. We are almost a full committee. Well, we are a full committee now. Ranking Dan Osmond is feeling better, but he's not with us today, but he is with us online. So we're all here. Yay, this is great. Happy to hear that. Okay, I'll wait just a minute, let you all get that passed around. Okay, once we get that passed around, we will go ahead and begin the agenda with bill introductions. So first of all, committee, do you have bill introductions? Representative Barth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Carrie Barth from Kansas House District 5. I'm introducing RS 0197. This is an act concerning the Kansas Consumer Protection Act. It's establishing limitations for solicitation of consumer transactions by suppliers based on residence and capacity. Also, it's defining consumer and supplier to include land transactions for wind and solar energy projects. Thank you. I'd like that to be introduced into committee.
And is that sponsored? Is that on behalf of anybody? Or yourself?
No, it's not.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, anyone else on the committee have a bill introduction? I have one. It's RS 0521, and it has to do with the special claims against the state. It's raising the limit for the Secretary of Corrections to be able to receive claims. Right now, the limit is $500, but we're raising it to $750. So it's just a little tweak to the special claims against the state. And again, that was 0521, and that's on behalf of Special Claims Against the State Committee. Okay, yes.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, you said that was on behalf of Special Claims Against the State?
No, it's on behalf of the, I guess myself, I'm the chairman of the Special Claims Against the State Committee, Joint Committee. So the Joint Committee asked for the tweak to that statute, the special.
So that was based on action of the Joint Committee to recommend legislation. Yes, exactly. Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I wasn't sure whether it came from the Department of Corrections or somewhere else, and so the clarification is appreciated.
Yep, thank you. Actually, for the one that Representative Barth, I did not ask if there were any questions or anything on that one. Okay, without objection, that one will be requested. Any other questions on the one that I introduced or requested? Okay, then that one, without objection, will be requested. All right. Now, do we have any folks in the audience? And I will call on Representative Alcala.
Thank you, committee. I'm introducing a bill on behalf of Diana Swafford, and it's amending the Uniform Non-Parent Grandparent Visitation Act. So kind of in a nutshell, if your kid don't like you, you don't get visitation, the judge would have to make a decision to probably give you more visitation.
And do you have an RS number?
Yes, I do. It's 25RS0640.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, anybody? Okay, without objection, that will be requested. Thank you, Representative. Okay, others in the audience, bill request. Please come forward and introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Meredith Fry with the Kansas Coalition Against Sexual and Domestic Violence. Thank you, Chairwoman Humphreys and members of committee. We would request 25 RS 0764, and that's a bill that has to do with protection orders.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on that one? Okay, without objection, we will request that bill. Thank you, Meredith. Thanks for being here. Okay, do we have any others from the audience? Okay, maybe one more, but 4 for today. So, all right. With that, I think we got the papers passed around as far as our hearing goes. I'll go ahead and open the hearing then on House Bill 2061 and call on the reviser to give us a bit of an overview of that one. And Jason, did you send a memo about that? Okay. So I don't know if it got put in the S drive, as we're having some issues, but if you would just be pretty complete in explaining it to us, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yes, I did submit it. I think it was a tiny bit late, so it might not have been added yet, and that's my fault. It is a short bill brief, thankfully, a fairly small change. So House Bill 2061 does exactly what the short title says. It includes above ground and below ground lines, cables, and wires, and the definition of a critical infrastructure facility used for telecommunications or video services for the crimes of trespassing on a critical infrastructure facility and criminal damage to a critical infrastructure facility. The statute that's amended is KSA 21-5818. That's the criminal code statute some of you may remember you enacted just a few years ago, creating those crimes of trespassing on critical infrastructure facility and criminal damage to a critical infrastructure facility. You'll see if you look closely at the bill, the only amendment is in subsection G, the definitions provision, specifically G7, which is on page 2 in lines 26 through, it goes on through 32. So the change in definition there is to add to what is defined as critical infrastructure facility. And it currently means in G7, a facility that is used for wireline, broadband, or wireless telecommunications or video services infrastructure. The addition is whether such facility is located within or outside of any public or highway right-of-way, including but not limited to, and you'll see there are 2 examples in current law, backup power supplies and cable television head end. The addition is in cap A, above ground and below ground lines, cables, or wires. So your additions there are the facility being located within or outside of a public or highway right-of-way, and including but not limited to those above ground and below ground lines, cables, or wires. No penalty change, no change to the elements, just a change to the kinds of things that are considered a facility and where they might be located. If you have technical questions kind of about above ground, below ground wires, I think the conferees can handle those. But if you have questions about the criminal statute itself or whether something is new or old, I'll be happy to answer those if I can.
Okay, thank you. Committee, do you have any questions for the reviser? Okay, thank you so much. Okay, with that, I will call up Dayton Murdy. Yep, okay, from Charter Communications. Thank you so much for being here with us. If you'll introduce yourself and then go ahead and we'll ask questions after you're finished.
At Charter Communications, and Charter is locally known as Spectrum in Kansas. We have about 118,000 customers here, and we serve roughly 25 communities. We also have over 850 employees, and last year we invested $37 million in the state to expand broadband to an additional 3,000 residents. We support HB 2061 to add broadband and communication cables and wires to the definition of critical infrastructure facilities. I think we all can agree that broadband is critical to everyday life. We use it for everything from entertainment to education and for our workforce. Right now, head-in facilities and power supplies are included in the definition of critical infrastructure. We view this bill as just closing a loophole and also protecting our cable lines. We have seen several instances of damage with impacts to customers ranging up to 10,000 different people. And so we'd like to see this small change that can help defend our critical infrastructure. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Committee, do you have questions for Mr. Murdy? Representative Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your presentation. I don't know if this is a question for the reviser or not, but does this include like of intent with negligence? Would that fall under this bill, or would it, since the intent wasn't there to commit the crime?
Jason.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Representative, the culpability requirement is up in subsection A for trespassing. That's without is knowingly, so without consent of the owner or the owner's agent, knowingly entering or remaining in one of the facilities that's defined later, or on property containing the facility. So that's knowingly, not negligently or recklessly, right? For those of you that aren't around Judiciary all the time, remember there's 3 culpabilities levels in the criminal code: intentionally, knowingly, recklessly. Those are the 3. So this one is knowingly. It's right in the middle. And then for aggravated trespassing, it's also knowingly. And then for criminal damage, it's knowingly damaging, destroying, or tampering. So it'd have to be knowingly, not negligently.
Great, thank you. And so with that, you stated you've had about 10,000 different customers affected. Has it been from criminal activity?
That was just one instance of vandalism and damage. We've had several, and I'm happy to share specifics with you. Individually, we want to be careful with what we release publicly when it comes to these damages and where they're happening, how long the impacts. Yes, there are criminal instances of intentional vandalism or damage, and the highest that we've seen in Kansas is 10,000 different customers impacted. On the Missouri side of Kansas City, we've had one instance that impacted over 100,000 customers, so they can get pretty broad.
Thank you.
Committee, do we have any other questions? Representative Carmichael.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Murty, I cannot remember now whether it was in this committee or it was in the Energy Committee where Mr. Federico's client, Ms. Bottenberg, brought in large batteries that were being stolen from Cox Communications. And I will tell you that they are still being stolen in my neighborhood, despite the fact that we passed a law doing exactly what the cable industry asked us to do. I'm sorry, you have a comment? Go ahead.
I mean, it's very difficult to stop these instances, especially when it comes to cuts on wires. There's several problems. First, you have to catch the person, and most of the time it's happening in unpopulated areas and dark of night, and so it's very difficult to catch people. Hopefully, this is going to act as an extra barrier to deter people from doing it. Another barrier that we've ran into is cases not being prosecuted, and so hopefully this will add a little extra to ensure that happens.
I want to call you McMurtry. I'm sorry, my grandfather read novels by a guy named McMurtry. Mr. Murtry, I agree with you. I think there may well be a problem with prosecutors not taking this seriously. My concern is that passing another law may not make them take it any more seriously. So here's my question and by the way, these thefts that I was alluding to aren't happening out in the country. My district is one of the most densely populated districts in the state, and in one night, I saw 4 different Cox facilities that were cleaned out by people who go around and break into them. And so I thought we did something to stop it. But here's my question is, if prosecutors aren't prosecuting under the law that we have now, one, where are they? Because I want to call them and ask them what the problem is with, we gave the cable industry and the wireless industry exactly the legislation I think they asked us for. And I'm not sure that adding more language is going to help. Can you tell me how often you've had prosecutors decline prosecution and on what bases? What was wrong with the old law and how many prosecutors can't read simple English?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to confer with our corporate security team to bring up specific examples that I can give to you individually. I can tell you that we're doing everything that we can to try and stop these instances because they do impact
Sure.
customers and Kansans. And so, we're working with other companies, with task force. I've provided in written testimony a link to a study that we were a part of that studied the issue nationally. It's difficult to stop these instances, and we're trying to do everything that we can.
Madam Chair, he did remind me of a question that I did want to ask. I read the study that was referenced in your testimony, and it was a study concerning vandalism, is what it says, at least. But I didn't see any examples in there from Kansas at all. The only thing I saw in there about Kansas was that we'd passed a statute to stop it.
I can certainly provide those specific examples that have happened over the last few weeks.
Last thing, Madam Chair, can you tell us how many instances we've had? I understand you had an outage of 10,000 customers, and I don't mean to belittle that. I'm trying to get a hold of the scope of the extent to which prosecutors in Kansas, in my judgment, aren't doing their job. We're talking about one, we talk about 100. That's what I'm trying to find out from you.
So
Okay?
in the last 2 months, we've had 4 instances of vandalism on the Kansas side of Kansas City. And I can share the specifics with you privately that deal with where those damages happened, how many customers were impacted.
Were they prosecutors who wouldn't prosecute or people who weren't apprehended?
I don't have the information.
Thank you,
on
Madam
prosecutors
Chair.
that wouldn't prosecute.
Okay, committee, are there any other questions? Representative Lewis.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. My voice is a little lower today than it normally is, but it's really a question more for the revisor perhaps. So under current law, what are the penalties that can be assessed to someone who has engaged in this kind of vandalism?
Jason.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Representative, they begin on the bottom of page 1. So E1, trespassing on a critical infrastructure facility is a Class A non-person misdemeanor. Remember, those are served in jail. A2, aggravated trespassing on a facility is a severity level 7 non-person felony. So that's one of those mostly presumptive probation layers of the sentencing grid. Criminal damage to a facility is a level 6, so one up from that, still mostly presumptive probation, of course. And then aggravated criminal damage is a level 5 non-person felony. So we're in more of a presumptive prison area for a lot of those folks.
Thank you.
Any other questions, committee? I do have a question. Those 4 times in the past few months on the Kansas side, what was the recourse? I mean, was there anything, what happened with those?
We're working with police officers to follow up, and I can get you an update on each one of the individual instances if you would like on where we're at with the investigations and with the circumstances surrounding each instance.
Yep. And can you just, for my own information, when you say above ground and below ground lines, how deep are below ground, and in these instances, have they been above ground or below ground?
We've seen damage cuts to both, intentional vandalism to both. And below ground, I mean, it varies based on what other utilities are in the ground and where we're at. Generally, it's lower than 36 inches, so deeper than 3 feet underground.
That would have to be intentional. Yep. Okay. All right, committee, before we go to the next proponent. Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. Thanks for coming to Kansas. Okay, I'll now call on our next proponent. Darren, are you AT&T? It's written only. Okay. So we're just getting our information. Okay. Committee, why don't you take a look at that written only testimony from AT&T and possibly Aaron would be willing to answer a question if anyone had a question for him about his testimony. Okay, proponent. Is there any other proponent? Any questions, sorry, about from our representative from AT&T? Okay, is there any other proponent testimony? And, you know, there is a decent chance that we miss somebody in this whole, you know, these past few days where we've had kind of less than optimum operations going on. Okay, any other proponent testimony? Nope. Any opponent testimony? Any neutral? No? Okay. All right, then I will close the hearing on House Bill 2061. And committee, just give you an update. That's all we have for today. We will have a hearing on 2062 tomorrow. And we've had a little snafu about our hearing on Thursday. I still intend to have a hearing on House Bill 2131 in Judiciary on Thursday, and that is about jailhouse testimony. At the moment, we're going to have to do some re-referring committees and different things. So we'll just, I'm letting you know publicly, that's what the plan is. It's not officially on the agenda yet, but I want you to be aware of what's going on. Okay, anything else for the good of the committee? Representative Goddard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I kind of like to go back and just for clarification. On the written testimony for this bill we just heard, there was a recommendation or consideration for an amendment. Has there been anything done on an amendment to the bill?
Not that I'm aware. And so when we work the bill and vote on it, that would be when someone could bring an amendment. So, but I'm not aware. I mean, I see what is written here, but I'm not aware of anything in particular.
All right.
So if anyone's interested, please chat with the representative. Chat with Jason is what I'm hearing. So, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you. All right, anything else? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.